Hey, welcome to SportsBeat Live post-game edition. The Chiefs just finished a 26-17 victory formation triumph over the Buffalo Bills, and we're going to talk about it with the guys who cover the Chiefs for the Kansas City Star. We've got Vahe Gregorian, Sam Mellinger, Sam McDowell in the house. We're endeavoring to get Herbie Teope. We'll see if Herbie can make it. Herbie's been having some technical difficulties. And but we're trying to find Herbie. We'll see if he gets here. So, but this show is about talking Chiefs, not only with those who cover the team for the Star, but also you all. We want to get your questions and comments, and we'll talk. We'll get to as many as those as we can. So, hey guys, the first thought that I had about this game was let's start here. That both teams came into the game with the same record and coming off a loss as a favorite. And to me, this game was about who would be in a better frame of mind, who would handle the loss, maybe learn from it in a better way. And I think it's pretty obvious from the way that the game unfolded that the Chiefs, as Super Bowl champs, kind of played up to the team that we thought they could be. Am I right about that?
I definitely thought so, Blair. I mean, I feel like not that this was some real reality check exactly, but I do think it was a moment to sort of make a stand and flex what you have. And we all kind of kicked this around in various ways, but obviously the Chiefs sort of did this in a new way, really new way, if you really look at some of the numbers in the running attack. And I think in the end, it was really kind of just a gritty win too. I think it was a little bit of a testament to the culture and who this team sees itself as.
What do you think, Melly?
Yeah, I thought we've talked about this before, so this just isn't just a reaction to this game, but I thought the Chiefs, this group, has a pretty strong track record of rising to moments like this, of when there's even like this much doubt that they can turn into this much doubt. You know what I mean? That they're going to use that in a positive way. The Ravens game is the most recent example before today, but I was just blown away by what that offensive line did. I felt similar. I remember thinking this and probably even saying it on this fine program after the Ravens game that like the Chiefs are always pretty much going to be the fastest team on the field. When they can also be the stronger team, the more physical team, you're not going to beat those guys. And to be able to do that on the line when the switch at center was voluntary. That was an upgrade, they thought, but they lose Mitch Schwartz 3 snaps in or whatever that was. The game after, you lose Kelechi Osemele, who was their best run blocker. And, to shift these guys around so your replacement left guard becomes your replacement right tackle, and you got to do all this other stuff. And to be able to do that against that line, I mean, everybody's going to be talking about Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and God bless him. They should be. He was great. But he got a lot of yards before contact. A lot of that was on the offensive line. There's Herbie.
We will liberate you, Herbie.
We're seeing the backs, like the behind the scenes of like the gaming stuff.
You can't hear us, I don't think.
All the better to talk trash on him.
Meanwhile,
I think this is the first time me and Vahe have ever both made the start of this show.
I think it is too.
How about that?
We got past that long-time grudge match. And
hey, Sam McDowell, I know you wrote about the offense, so let's stay on that side of the ball. The offensive line, I agree with Sam that the offensive line was terrific. I mean, just Remmers playing 2 positions tonight, no Mitchell Schwartz, and I thought that there were times tonight when they blew they blew Buffalo off the ball and just pushed that defensive line.
Yeah, I guess I would kind of echo Melly's point, but maybe even more fine-tune it to it's not just the team rising to the occasion, but individual units within the team rose to the occasion tonight, because the 2 most criticized parts of this team last week were the offensive line and the defense. And those were probably the 2 parts of this team that carried them to a win, I thought. I recognize that the defense gave up some third down penalties, and Blair, you addressed that in your halftime story. But they gave up 206 yards to whom they gave up 400. The average is 402. So the defense played well. The offensive line was terrific. And I guess it's kind of a reminder that, and I don't think any of us did this, but not to overreact based on one game and not to do that based on how the Chiefs played last week. Now, if I make that point, I could probably say we shouldn't say everything on the offensive line is settled based on just what we saw tonight.
But
it's certainly a good sign, especially having to plug guys in.
Hi, Irving. I guess he can't hear us.
What a coincidence! He's saying that he can't hear when you're talking, Sam.
Right.
All right, we're holding out for some Herbie. And maybe we'd all be better off with a little Herbie in our lives. And I know Beth is trying to reel him in via Zoom, as I understand it. But
I hate the "said no one ever" joke, but it's got to apply to that comment.
Let's stay on the running game because it was a record-setting night for the Chiefs running game. 245 rushing yards on 46 attempts. I think I have this right. The rushing yards, the most by an Andy Reid coached Chiefs team. The 46 attempts, the most by an Andy Reid coached team, including his years in Philadelphia. And the first time that with Patrick Mahomes as the starting quarterback, that the Chiefs had more rushing than passing yards. So I don't know if this was by design, but it seemed like the Chiefs wanted to establish this early. And once they got it established, they didn't move away from it. And what an advantage for the Chiefs if they can run the ball effectively like this, and not to mention having a newcomer join the team in time for the Broncos game on Sunday, who should only help the running game. Although I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire played tonight like he was hearing some footsteps. And who was it that wrote about Edwards-Helaire tonight?
I did. But
Okay.
I think probably in all of our stories, I'm sitting here like jotting down your notes on the stats, Blair, because like the stuff I need to go back in and add my story later. Mahomes said something really interesting that on RPOs, he sort of eventually was reminding himself before the play, like, don't pass the ball here. The running game's really working. And for Patrick Mahomes to say that, I mean, we're talking about the guy that's amassed more passing yards, or at least more quickly than anybody in NFL history, is telling himself before a play, hey, you got to hand the ball off here. Clyde Edwards-Helaire was really good. I mean, he made a great move on a safety. I still thought the touchdown play probably should have counted. I thought the holding play was a little call, could have been missed. But I mean, he was really good. But I still think the offensive line was the storyline there.
Yeah, that holding call was on Nick Allegretti, and I thought otherwise played a game, a really nice game in the first time that he's seen this type of action in a Chiefs uniform. I thought he was really good. I know that we caught the eye of Buck and Aikman on the broadcast. So
that was their only holding call tonight, Blair, and they had 3 last week. And Mahomes only got sacked once tonight early in the game, and he got sacked 3 times last week.
Yeah, Allegretti was like I was borderline blown away by how good he was, and I don't mean that to insult the man, but I mean he was a 7th round pick last year, and we just hadn't seen that much of him. You can only tell so much from training camp. Didn't even have preseason games this year, obviously, to get a look. But I mean, he was just beating people up. He may have to stay on the field.
Well, same with Kilgore too. I think Kilgore at center was all we have are the results of the game, and those results were spectacular. I mean, for them to run as successfully as they did with an offensive line, like I said, where guys who hadn't played were playing, guys were playing different positions. That was really, really impressive.
And go ahead, Sam.
Well, I was just like real quick, if I can say something real quick. There's some significance here because we've talked about this a lot about, all these, rushing 3 or 4 and dropping 7 or 8 into coverage. And that's the way to sort of pull the Chiefs down they're still going to score their points, but pull them down and make them a little bit more like a normal NFL team. And the Chiefs haven't been able to solve that. And if they figured something out, and I don't know if the Bills just have a lot of problems up front, that's on the table. But if the Chiefs can do this, not 245 yards or whatever it ended up being, but if they can just keep those people honest, if they can keep defenses honest, then I don't know what you do against these guys.
Yeah, Herbie is blaming Sam McDowell for his technical difficulties. Nobody's surprised by that. So,
if I had to pay, I would do it, but I'm not.
Hey, so let's staying with the offense. Even with the domination of the Chiefs in terms of yards and time of possession, it was 37-23 or something like that in terms of time of possession advantage. The Chiefs had the ball all night long. And yet, with 4.5 minutes to go, the Chiefs hold a 6-point lead and are facing a 3rd and 12 from the Chiefs 33. They've got to make a play here, or they're punting back to a Buffalo team that had just gone down the field in 75 yards in about 3 minutes to make it a one-score game. And Mahomes I thought he had a superb game tonight, kind of a understated superb game. We'll talk about a couple of his plays, but his extending the play on 3rd and 12 with a 37-yard pass to Byron Pringle, not Tyreek Hill, not Travis Kelce, not McCole Hardman, not DeMarcus Robinson, but to Byron Pringle was, I think, the biggest snap of the game. Do you guys agree?
I think it was humongous, or mammoth, as Gary Pinkel would say. It just, and Blair, you made a key point about it. It really developed because Patrick, made time by moving and stepping up, but the Pringle kept the play going. And goodness, between Pringle, just that play, and DeMarcus Robinson, they kind of filled the void for Sammy Watkins in ways you might not have expected. DeMarcus hasn't been that reliable this season. It seems like he's had some drops when he's had an opportunity, and he had more yards, or almost as many yards in the first half as he did in the entire first 5 games. So, but that play in particular, I think if you're doing the highlight reel of the game, that's one of the 4 or 5 plays of the game.
Didn't it look a lot like the play that Nick Keiser didn't make last week?
The one that bounced off the chest.
3rd and long, Mahomes does his Mahomes stuff, throws it across the field. Keiser just, my assumption is that he just wasn't ready. That's never happened to him before. He's never been in that situation. And Byron Pringle, that guy, he doesn't get he's great on special teams, but he doesn't get a lot of snaps on offense until Sammy Watkins, hurts his hamstring or whatever. But he is always ready. And he seems like he's ready in big spots too. I mean, I go back and now I'm forgetting the specific play, but there was a huge play he made. Remember last year in Detroit?
Yeah.
At the end of that game, he just seems to be, for a guy that doesn't get many offensive snaps, man, he is ready for the moment.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to remember the Patrick Mahomes piece of that play, and rightfully so, because he extends the play that a lot of quarterbacks get sacked on, or at least tuck it and run. But Byron Pringle was stationary at the end of his route, as he was called to be, to run a little hook route. And he ran about 40 yards across field at a deep slant to extend, to make somebody, to give Patrick Mahomes the out on that play. So to me, his mental acuity on that play is what made the whole thing happen.
And look, I don't need to take an unnecessary shot at McCole Hardman, but I do think that in a play like that, you see, I think Patrick might have a level of trust with Pringle that he's still working to achieve with Hardman. It looked to me like when Hardman, it was pretty much a drop ball. First half, was it?
Yeah.
Popped up in the air.
And you could see Patrick, and the camera flashed to Patrick going like that, kept the ball.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Could have been intercepted. Could have been intercepted.
What's that, Blair?
Could have been intercepted.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That ball was in the air a long time after it hit Hardman's hands.
One of our viewers, Herbie, says he's a K-Stater. Of course, he's always ready.
You know what? I almost said the obligatory Herbie line, but I was like, you know what? He's not on the show. So just not gonna. Of course, he texts it.
One of our viewers.
Hey, let's switch it over. I thought the Patrick Mahomes and the offense needed to outscore the Raiders last week. They couldn't do it, but they got in a shootout. And I thought the defense played as poorly as we have seen a Chiefs defense play since the beginning of the 2019 season last week. I thought they came to play tonight. The defense was aggressive. We saw it in a couple of the penalties, especially by the cornerbacks. But they didn't sack Josh Allen. But I thought they hounded him into a mediocre game tonight, and he was inaccurate early. I think on his own. I don't know if he felt pressure early, but he was inaccurate early, and then I think Passanio and Jones and Clark and those guys got, were getting to him, or getting close to him, and rushing his throws, and just until that late touchdown drive, I just wasn't impressed with Josh Allen tonight.
I watched a lot of the Bills this year just because they seem really interesting, and the improvement from Allen. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I think he was something like a 56% passer his first 2 seasons or whatever as a quarterback, and he's been close to 70, or at least he was before these last 2 weeks. And I don't know what happened these last 2 weeks. He looked like a different guy. The first, what would that be, 4 weeks of this season? People were saying he's an MVP candidate and all this stuff. But if you didn't know that and you just saw what he was tonight, you'd be thinking like they got some, really athletic tight end, who's got a big arm playing quarterback or something. Like he just, I do agree with you. Like he seemed inaccurate. The ball was wet, right? Like, so I don't know how much of a factor that was. But then I also thought that the Chiefs brought some pressure and did it pretty consistently, and it seemed to really bother him.
How about Damian Williams after the game saying, pressure? What pressure? We didn't bring any pressure. Yes, they brought pressure. Absolutely, they did. They pinned their ears back a couple of times. And so Roy Zelensky asks, he's surprised to see Darwin Thompson again. Which running back will lose the most carries to Bell? And is this the new offensive line going forward? Let's take Darwin Thompson had a couple of good moments. That's how I know the offensive line was playing great tonight, because it didn't matter who carried the ball.
Yeah.
They all had good moments. And the Darrell Williams touchdown run on 4th and 1, once he what's a gutsy call, I figured the Chiefs would go for it there. And let's talk about the play before that, the spinorama by
was
Mahomes.
incredible.
I mean, that's going to get lost, right? Because it didn't pick up a first down, but if he gets tackled for a 4-yard loss, they're kicking a field goal there, right? So, what did you guys notice on that?
Well, we're all like kind of different ages, so I don't know. Like, but when I was a kid, the NFL like had these. They weren't really bloopers, but they were just like funny plays. Like something would happen that you just never see before. And I forgot what it was called, but they were on loop on ESPN just constantly. And God, I love those shows. And that looked like one of those plays out of that. Like it just looked like sort of like a cartoon. It looked like Hinchman. Like it looked like everybody else was on skates. Like he runs past the line of scrimmage. He thinks he's not past the line of scrimmage. He looks over, sees that he's past the line of scrimmage, and it's like goes back, goes forward. Then guys that like came out before him are trying to get him this way again. And he's just, I think there were like 4 defenders that had a chance at him. And I thought he got, like watching live, I thought he got a first down. But
so did Andy Reid.
Yeah, but I do think it was a good spot. Andy Reid they should have measured. If that's what Andy was pissed off about, I think he had every right to be. I don't understand. Like go measure. Like that's just what happens. But God, that was a great play. It was like funny. I think it was like you can like divide Mahomes plays, right? And that was like one of the funniest plays I think he's had.
I'm thinking about the fact that the Sams are substantially younger than the Vahe Blair combo, but I can almost set that old NFL films music to the thing you're talking about. I can just hear it like
so good.
So Peter Alden asks, are the Chiefs better off without Mitchell Schwartz in the run game?
No.
Stop.
Well, how about a Mitchell Schwartz with the back issues? I wonder.
Oh yeah, probably.
I mean, this guy who now he's never missed a start, right? Tonight would have been 135 games. He's never missed a start. Played one series. Andy Reid said after the game he thought he could go, and and obviously that wasn't the case. I'll be curious to see what happens.
First game he didn't finish, right, Blair? I mean, because he only
finished the Tennessee game last year.
Yeah, he came back in that. Was it your sense, and it sounds like that's what you're saying, Blair. I missed a little bit of Andy while I was typing, but so the idea really was that he thought he could go, as opposed to he really aggravated it tonight.
Just he looked fine. He looked fine walking from the sideline to the locker, if that's what he was doing. So I don't know.
That was Andy's explanation, is that he popped up Saturday on the injury report with the back issue, and Andy basically said he tried to go, it tightened up on him, and he tried to say that's one of the reasons Kilgore started as well. Is Austin Ryder's been dealing with a little bit of a tender knee, which has been on the injury report.
It has, yep.
But I can't help but think that was a coach's decision based on the interior of the line getting beaten up last week.
Yeah, and they may have looked like I really don't think it was Mitch Schwartz being out. I think it had more to do with what Sam just said about the interior of that line. And if they've got a way to, if Kilgore is as much of an improvement, as much of an upgrade over Ryder as it looked, just naked eye, just watching the broadcast view. And if Allegretti is that, which is kind of like what we saw from Osemele. I mean, just a physical mauling guy.
Brute.
That, gosh dang, like maybe they really found something here. It's just one game. Bills have other issues. Need to see it again. But that is intriguing, for the season-long problem of what do you do against these light boxes. If the Chiefs just found something, again, they don't need to rush for 245. But if they can just rush enough that teams are a nickel instead of dime for crying out loud, I mean, just something that could be really significant.
It's going to be interesting to see how the Broncos try and defend them next week.
Yep.
That'll tell us whether or not we think this was more Bills or whether it was more Chiefs.
Yep.
Brian LaBerge says we need to start telling Butker to kick a field goal after a touchdown. He makes field goals. You're right, Brian. That's 4 extra point misses for him this year.
Leads the league.
It's unbelievable. He's missed more extra points than field goals this year. 2 years ago, when he led the NFL in scoring, he was 65 to 69 on extra points. I figure he just got tired that year. But this is only 6 games in the season. He seems to miss one every week now. That's troubling. It's just troubling to see.
And Blair, we were watching that one in here together, and it was clear the snap was really good. The hold was good.
The operation.
And missed all the way. Not a hook, not a slice, just missed.
This is one of those things I think we could have a better idea on if we had locker room access. You know what I mean? Because we would have been talking to not just Butker, but Townsend and all that during the week. But I do think it's notable. Like Dave Tobe has been talking about the extra point problem, is like a different swing that he was taking with his leg. And he emphasizes multiple times that all the misses are to the left. It's the same miss. It'd be a bigger issue if he's missing all over the place. Well, that extra point was missed to the right. Yeah. And for the first time. So maybe they do have that problem that Dave was happy they didn't have a couple weeks ago.
Larry Looper asks why Fox didn't have Mike Pereira explain why the Chiefs didn't get a measurement, the play that appeared to make Andy Reid go nuts.
That's a good question.
And I think one thing, if this were a normal post game, there'd have been time maybe to ask Andy was it the first series, the first or second Buffalo series when it appeared Josh Allen stepped out of bounds a yard before the first down marker.
Yeah.
It wasn't challenged by the Chiefs. The replay clearly showed that his foot was on the line or over the line, but Chiefs didn't challenge it. I was really surprised.
Wasn't that on the Chiefs sideline too?
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah, that's actually, we didn't talk about this last week, but there was a play deep in the fourth quarter last week where I thought the Raiders were short of the first down and given the first down. And it was on a third or fourth down play, same situation where it wasn't challenged. And I don't know whether he doesn't want to risk a play that he's not sure about, but there was no question that he was short. I mean, they've got those new first down cameras, at least that we saw tonight, that made it clear as day that he was out of bounds shy of the first down marker.
Dana Raven says snow is in the forecast for the Denver game. We'll have to check that out. Oof. Oof.
Look at this handsome man.
We've been infiltrated here.
Can you hear us, Herbie?
Click on start video. Start video. You got it down there.
Can't hear him.
We can hear
He's probably also calling Josh Allen a tight end, which he doesn't know somebody here has already done.
you.
Herbie, it's good to see you. I wish we could hear you. We can't. Yeah, you need to hit the mute button maybe, or
This is good content, though. I have to admit.
We're getting his full screen here, too.
Yeah,
I know. We get the giant Herbie.
guy is so confused.
I like how the lights. He's got candles going. I think.
Or is that like a ceiling fan?
The feeling fan.
Yeah. Just every like 10, 15 minutes, we'll just check in with Herbie and
like an SNL skit.
All right. So Kyle Coffey wants to know if the Bills stink. They for 2 weeks they have.
yeah, so that's a good way to put it.
I think they're well coached. The fact that they, as I said earlier, the Chiefs dominated all these stats, and the Bills had a chance to make a stop with 4.5 minutes to go on 3rd and 12 to get the ball back. I think that's some pretty good coaching. To be out of a game as much as the Bills are out of this game and to keep it as close as they did. I think, look, hats off to Sean McDermott.
The Bills don't have a running game right now either. When we talk about the Chiefs running game for the past 5 weeks, the Bills don't have a running game right now. I mean, they actually lined up Josh Allen as a runner to take a pitch on a couple of plays that was just a straight design run. It wasn't a quarterback draw. It was a pitch play. So the Bills defense is completely different than it was last year right now because those corners aren't what they were last year right now.
Yeah, they're not that good. Yeah.
Darryl Wilson said this is like a Charlie Chaplin movie. If we could have Herbie talk and then show on the screen what he said, like that movie.
A little Buster Keaton in there. So.
Oh, Herbie.
This is the most entertaining Herbie's ever been on one.
All right, guys, what are we missing here? We had the offense, we had the defense, we had the special teams. And let's go back to the beginning where I just thought this was a bit of a gut check game for the Chiefs, right? It's been such a crazy season for everybody. The Bills have had to – this game was supposed to be on Thursday. The Bills have had to make adjustments. The Chiefs certainly have had to make adjustments. And at least starting now, right, the schedule we think is going to end up normally for the Chiefs, Broncos, and then Jets Panthers over the next two games, 3 games. So are they back on the right track? Does this prove that last week was an aberration?
It sure makes you think that, right? I mean, it's pretty easy to look at that as a blip. I guess I was starting to prepare some text in the event of their loss, in which I was thinking about the old. I'm looking at Sam McDowell, who likes my different phrases, but I was thinking of the old phrase about twice as a coincidence, 3 times as a trend story. So I wasn't quite ready to think that they're in trouble if they lost this game, but I do think it kind of reframes where you think they are. And I think the fact that they did it, as you said, Blair, with the gut check, also with showing a little different kind of muscle, right, with the way the line made room and the way Edwards-Helaire exploited it. I think you think of them as a team that can beat you in more ways. Sam Mellinger and I kind of kicked that around a little bit. It's another way they can win. They just showed that. So I think you feel like they're a little bit more of a complete team after tonight.
Andrew Brand asks a good question. Do you think the Chiefs missed L'Jarius Sneed this badly? Charvarius Ward, another tough game. Let's see who we can ask about that. Miguel, no. Vahe, no. Herbie, if he's with us, maybe no. There's
All
only
right,
one
fine.
person.
So I thought they missed L'Jarius Sneed more against the Raiders. They needed somebody that could at least pretend to run with Henry Ruggs. And that guy just doesn't exist on the roster if Snead is hurt. Ward, that was just a nightmare 2 snaps in a row. Diggs on a deep route, and I mean he clearly hooked him and kind of brought him to the ground. And then which happens, whatever. Like corners get beat, it's hard to play that position. But then I think maybe the more frustrating one for Chiefs fans might be the touchdown, because it was just, Ward, like the thing that he's shown us is that he can have good coverage, but he doesn't turn around for the ball. And that was the touchdown.
That's what's gotten him in trouble is not turning around for the ball.
Yeah. And look, he had a nightmare game against the Raiders, but it's sort of nobody really said much because everybody had a nightmare game against the Raiders. Tyrann Mathieu, the all-decade player, very much included in that. So it's hard to, scream too hard about basically a minimum wage, undrafted cornerback. But this is 2 weeks in a row, and he's lost some playing time, not a lot, but a little bit. So definitely worth keeping an eye on. And L'Jarius Sneed, God, he looked good when he was healthy, man.
He did. Tammy Benson Darnell asks, if one of you broke your hand, how would you adapt to journalism?
Yeah, that's a great. Yeah,
it's a great.
Terribly.
Point.
Yeah.
Blair, you had surgery on like a finger like 3 years ago, right?
Blair played through. He did.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
In his finger.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Sam McDowell misses like a week because he refinances his house.
Oh, man.
At least his internet's working. So.
I had a point about the Charvarius Ward thing, but I can't bounce back.
All right, guys. Let's. There's just no use carrying on without Herbie anymore.
Hey, I don't want to let us go, Blair, until Sam Mellinger tells our audience about what the question was that got Andy Reid to say he'd like to be up on your wall behind you, because he seemed to see the baseball cards and maybe confuse them for football cards, or I don't know, but he wanted a piece of you.
Yeah, I forgot what the question was too, but this frame has been very carefully cultivated, and it takes a lot to get up there.
It's all Bo Jackson.
There's a lot of Bo Jackson. He's the only one that's on there more than once, and he's on there 3 times.
Well, I wonder if Andy's attention will be diverted this week with the Dodgers in the World Series. He hasn't brought them any luck the previous few years with the Dodgers. So.
If Andy Reid makes that wall, it should be his punt, pass, and kick picture, though.
In the Les Josephson jersey.
If that's on a Topps card, I will put this in there for sure.
All right, guys, let's get out of here. Listen, great catching up with Vahe, Sam, and Herbie. I know you can hear us, so it was great for you to pop in a couple of times in your Charlie Chaplin way. So. Beth, thanks a lot for producing, and we will talk to you guys again on Thursday. SportsBeat Live, regular time on Thursday. Good night, everybody.